Welcome back to Unlocked, guys. Today is a really unique episode. First off, we're in Vegas and we have Perez Hilton. Welcome.
You're welcome. I live here now.
Thank you. Thank you. So this is a really different interview for me because since I've started my podcast, I've only had on friends of mine, artists, and this is really different. I'm not going to lie. I'm kind of anxiety filled right now.
Don't be. We're just having a conversation.
We are. And too, I will say, my wardrobe, I put a lot of thought into this because I couldn't have you talking shit about me, whether I look trashy or if I look too, matronly. So I had to.
No. You know what? Actually, it's so funny you mentioned your wardrobe because I was sitting here silently appreciating, saying to myself, I hope when my daughters are older that they present as classy young women.
Well, thank you.
Because I want that for them. Hey,
they're
going to be their own individuals, but, I want like a Natalie Portman type or somebody like you. You look at you and you think power. Oh. In charge.
Well, you know what? I appreciate that. That really does, because I did go through a phase. It's so easy with what you see on TikTok and Instagram and, to each their own, whatever makes you feel comfortable. But for me, I went through a phase of like being half clothed, and it came from a place of insecurity. And then I got to a place where I was like, okay, this isn't me. Like I'm trying.
Were you doing it just on social media for attention, or were you doing it in the real world?
I would say, no, if I did it in the real world, my father would probably murder me. So I think social media mostly, just because I was like, that's what gets the likes. Yeah. That's what people like.
Well, that's smart.
Yeah.
On one hand. And on the other hand, you realized it wasn't for you. Yeah. So you stopped.
Exactly. So I think too, for my listeners, for people who may not know, tell us what you do.
I am truly the original influencer. Before that word even existed.
Yep.
Back in the day, the Paleolithic age when I started, the first term they had for us was web celeb.
Wow, I've never heard of that.
Yeah, web celeb. I started what I do in 2004, and it was originally just my little blog. Now I call it a website, which I still do, and I'm so grateful that nearly 20 years later, I'm able to continue to support my family doing that. And of course, I've ventured out. I have my own podcast. I do tons of stuff on social. I do talking head stuff on TV. I've done a lot of acting recently, which is exciting. I have a horror film coming out this year.
Oh my gosh, so that's exciting.
Going back to my roots, I went to college for acting.
Okay.
I'm a failed actor who fell forward, though. But that's a great lesson in life. Sometimes your failures can really turn into successes.
Yeah, 100%. So you're still doing your website, which I am very familiar with because you have written a fair share about my family.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to navigate this.
Your very public family.
Yes, my very public family. But also, I don't feel that just because you're in the public eye, you still are human.
Oh, of course.
You still have feelings.
Yeah.
You still... And I think going back to, you said 20 years ago you started.
Yeah.
And I read an article to where you were labeled as Hollywood's most hated
for a very long time. And some people might still view me that way. I don't think any of the coverage on you or your family, in my mind, has been cruel.
No, I would say it's not I wouldn't say cruel.
I was that back in the day.
Very much so.
Yeah, I own it.
Yes, 100%. And what do you think, we'll get back to my family in a second, but what do you think led you to that place of what we would, what we call today, really just like bullying and truly beating someone down?
I just did it for money. I'm very transparent. Wow. I did it for attention. I did it for views. That's the top line. Then if you want to dig a little deeper, it was also insecurity. It was also me thinking, gosh, this one thing that I'm doing is really resonating. It's working. So I need to do more of it and even harder.
Yeah.
So it progressively became nastier and more toxic.
Yeah.
That's how dark things often work. You know, like with anything, it starts off small and then it'll eat you alive.
Well, I think a good comparison in today's day and age, OnlyFans.
Sure.
You know, not to bash anyone that's on OnlyFans, but also I wouldn't say it's the most wholesome thing in the world, but yet it's skyrocketing. People are making millions of dollars a month off of selling their bodies. And in a way, you were kind of in that same place of selling your soul in order to gain.
But the difference was those people that are doing that aren't hurting anyone.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was, and I have to live with that. And I do. And, you know, things that I said or did or wrote 15 years ago still haunt me because the internet is forever. You know, people can bring up the receipts and show the world, look at what he said back in 2007 about Britney Spears. So I carry, you know, it's like I'm wearing a jacket right now for those that are listening that says Canada on it. But imagine that I'm, you know, that iconic book. It's like I have my scarlet letter and it's so visible everywhere I go. Whereas every single person alive has baggage.
Yeah, without a doubt.
But most people can hide theirs. It's not so public.
Yeah.
And I used to let my baggage weigh me down. Mm-hmm. But now I just have space for it.
Yeah.
I don't pretend that it didn't happen. And I truly know that I have changed.
But what got you to that point?
It wasn't a quick thing. It was a multi-year process. The first inkling that I wanted to change was pretty soon. I started in 2004. By 2008, I wanted to do things differently. And what started that different thought process for me was becoming healthier. You know, the very beginning part of my career, I was very unhealthy. And I like to frame it that way. I don't like to say overweight or fat or whatever.
Yeah.
Which I was, but I prefer to talk about it in terms of health. Because
what you're feeling internally shows externally.
Yeah, absolutely. I found out now that I've become a healthier person that the healthier I am, the happier I am, and different thoughts that I was having. But going back to my insecurity, I was afraid. I was afraid to make changes for the better and do things differently because by that point I had already established my brand for 4+ years, and I was nervous that people wouldn't resonate with a kinder, more positive, different Perez. So I stayed stuck in that mode for an additional 2 years. And then eventually there was a tipping point where I love Oprah Winfrey. Do you love Oprah?
I do. I'm an
Super Soul Sunday. I grew up watching Oprah, and one of the most powerful things that anybody could ever watch or listen to after you're done listening or watching this, go and watch the very last episode of the Oprah Winfrey Show. It was not when she had Beyonce perform. That was the penultimate episode. The last episode of the Oprah Winfrey Show, I don't know if you remember, it was just her speaking in front of her studio audience for an entire hour. And it was like the ultimate master class. It was Oprah sharing everything that life has taught her up until that point. And one of the things that Oprah said was, just listen. The universe, God, whatever you want to call it, has the answers for you. And if you don't listen to that little voice inside your ear, your intuition, your gut, God, it'll speak louder.
Yeah. And
it'll speak even louder. And eventually it'll smack you upside the head.
Yeah.
And that's what happened with me.
So it was a slow process.
Yeah.
And then was there a final bang?
There was, yeah. There was an awakening, actually, because I had deluded myself, as a lot of people do. Like, you know, you've been doing entertainment stuff for how many years now? Yeah, for a while. Maybe in your journey, there was a point along the way, or maybe not, but I definitely drank the Kool-Aid for a period of time there. Like telling myself things like, you know, if people don't like what I'm writing, they shouldn't read it. Or, you know, I'm just saying what everybody's thinking. Or, you know, my readers are my friends. Why shouldn't I be honest with them? Or Perez is just a character. I don't care if people don't like me because it's not the real me. That's BS.
Yeah.
It was me saying these things.
It was. And do you think, though, the things that you were saying, did they come from a place of trauma within your own life?
Yes. But that seems like a BS excuse.
Yeah. But I think the way that I view trauma is we all go through
I only got to that
things.
recently.
Yeah, we all go through things, and hurt people hurt people. That's something I've known for a long time. Hurt people. And with trauma, when we can identify it, then it's our responsibility to fix it.
Yes. And I've done a lot of therapy, thank God.
Yeah.
And it's wild because I'm an old ass man now, and only recently have I started to really understand what you mentioned. But part of me is like, I'm not looking for or expecting any sympathy it just provides context, So for me, that trauma was losing my grandfather and my father when I was in high school.
Yeah.
A week apart, and my grandfather lived with me, and I never really got over that. I never mourned actually until in my 40s.
Yeah.
When I wrote my memoir and I went into the recording studio to read the audio version, and then it just hit me so hard. And then I carried that for weeks and months. And then eventually I got back into therapy, which I had not done for a very long time. But what happened after my dad died was as a young teenager, I was like 14 or 15, I stopped being present in my life, and I buried myself in the TV, and I started to just make that my best friend, my drug, my therapist, and it helped to form who Perez was. And because I viewed what happened to me as such this injustice, like it's not right that you lose your father when you're 15 years old. Mm-hmm. I then viewed myself foolishly and incorrectly as this warrior of justice.
Yeah.
So when I had my villains that I would criticize, I really thought, well, they deserve it. They deserve it. Yeah. No, that's so stupid.
Yeah. Now, is there anyone in particular that you would say you have seen your words or articles impact their life in such a negative way?
I mean, so many people. Perhaps the one, though, that I get reminded of the most is Britney Spears.
Yeah.
And, I instead of helping, I know that I contributed to making things worse for her. Mm-hmm. And
have you ever gotten the chance
I've apologized multiple times privately.
Okay. So you have, and have you seen a difference in how you feel within yourself when that apology happens?
Yes and no. It took me a long time because for years, even after apologizing, and she was so gracious. She asked me to be a part of her circus tour.
Wow.
I was in the opening video of that. For the longest time, I had convinced myself what people thought about me was true. And only recently have I realized, no. For example, and thanks to therapy too, I would tell myself, almost everybody hates me. And I would just focus on that.
But that is shame. That's shame speaking.
Yes. But while I understand, I like to be honest.
Yeah.
A lot of people hate me, but now I just focus on, okay, a lot of people hate me, but not everybody does. There's a lot of people that really have followed me for a long time and that enjoy who I am today and see me for the person that I am now. Yeah. Or I would say things like, when I die, people will celebrate, which is true. I believe that.
I mean, there's probably going to be a good bit of people.
Yeah. But instead of focusing on that, now I focus on, well, I'm not dead yet. And I have a beautiful life that I've created for myself with 3 wonderful, exceptional children and my mother that lives with me. That's a huge blessing. And I just wake up every morning so grateful. Yes, I have all this baggage that I speak about, that I have, that we all have, but I am just really happy.
Yeah. Now, when you had your kids, did you see a big shift in the things you were writing after
I
the
definitely
fact?
also, it continued me down that path of being a different person.
Yeah.
You know, things that I hadn't even thought about. You know, I have a no kids policy on my website, so I won't post paparazzi pictures of celebrity children. We'll only post photos if they go to an event.
Yeah.
Or if they share it on social media themselves. Because I don't think that's okay to have the paparazzi stalking parents at a playground. And then all of the other kids are feeling uncomfortable or outside of a school or whatever it might be. So, yeah, I think having kids changed me for the better and also for the worse. I did not have anxiety before I had children.
Well, I think that's part of what goes along with it. You know, you have such a deep love for your child that you don't ever want anything to happen to them. So that's where that anxiety comes from.
And all the responsibility and the worry and the can't shut my brain off about the future and this and that and the other. And I'm such a type A person and a planner, and you can't plan for everything.
No.
But it's good to have goals and be prepared and, you know.
Unlocked with Savannah is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Most of you listening right now are probably multitasking. Yep, while you're listening to me, you're probably also driving, cleaning, exercising, or maybe even grocery shopping. But if you're not in some kind of moving vehicle, there's something else you can be doing right now. Getting an auto quote from Progressive Insurance. It's easy, and you could save money by doing it right from your phone. Drivers who save by switching to Progressive save nearly $700 on average, and auto customers qualify for an average of 7 discounts. Discounts for having multiple vehicles on your policy, being a homeowner, and more. So just like your favorite podcast, Progressive will be with you 24/7, 365 days a year. So you're protected no matter what. Multitask right now. Quote your car insurance at progressive.com to join over 29 million drivers who trust Progressive. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. National average 12 months of savings of $698 by new customers surveyed who saved with Progressive between June of 2021 and May of 2022. Potential savings will vary. Discounts not available in all states and situations. There's no way that you can't look at your kids and think now, like, I would be devastated if someone said these things about my kid. Or I would be so hurt.
I wouldn't at all. I wouldn't care. No, truly.
You would not step into protective mode saying, you're not going to talk shit about my kid.
I would respond. I would respond, and I do respond with like laughing emojis. Because why let that hurt you? It truly doesn't. And I've had conversations with my kids about, you know, a lot of people don't like your dad.
Yeah.
And a lot of people might say silly things about you even. And the opinions of strangers don't matter.
What I agree with that 100%. But do you think you have such a nonchalant view of that because of the things you've said?
People might think I'm crazy, but I actually, if people were to social media, and those nasty comments or any comment on social media, let's look at it like currency, right? If I were to post a photo of my daughter who is 7 years old, and somebody wrote, "Oh, she looks so pretty," great. That comment is worth $1. Mm-hmm. If somebody leaves a comment saying, "Your daughter is so hideous, she looks just like you," that comment's worth $100. Mm-hmm. And I'm thankful for it because that'll help me with my engagement. It does not bother me. It does not hurt me. It will only help me because the people then who hate me will pile on and agree with that person. And the people that like me, that support me, will then defend me in the comment section. And at the end,
it boosts your engagement.
The only one who wins is me. You trying to hurt me only helps me.
But I would say
I don't think anybody should leave a comment like
100%.
that.
But no, I get what you're saying. I do, because they're still coming to your page. They're still keeping you getting paid.
Yeah.
So, but when does the time come to where feeling is more than the money? like that you're ever going to truly, that hurt is going, you see what I'm trying to say?
Like, my kids are amazing. Like, nothing that anybody could say negative about my children would, unless my mother said it. I'm like, oh God, I have to really sit with that. Yeah. That's like the only thing. Like, but then and she does say negative things about my kids all the time. She's like, your kids are out of control. They need to, be quieter in the morning. They're so loud having breakfast. Typical grandma
of
stuff.
Of course.
But yeah, I'm not going to say I'm thankful for it, but ultimately, I think negatives can be positive. So I will continue to have even more of these conversations with my kids because I think it's good for all young people to, from an early age, try and detach themselves from comments they get on social media.
Yeah.
Which is a hard. It's taken me a long. Yeah. Well, it didn't take me a long time because most of the comments that I would always get were negative. Yeah. So I had to learn to not let it affect me. But
did you ever? There's a difference. Do you believe that there's a difference in like believing in yourself, being comfortable in who you are, and not paying attention to any of the comments? And then does there come a time to where all of the comments are pretty much the same and in line that you take a step back and you're like, okay, maybe there is a character flaw. Maybe.
Oh yeah, for sure. Back in the day, definitely. Yeah. And then now, well, there's a couple of things. Two things. One, social media is not real.
100%.
And the people that leave comments are not reflective of the masses or the mainstream.
Yeah.
The people that leave comments are like 1 or 2% of the general public. For whatever reasons, they're leaving comments on things, either negative or positive. Mm-hmm. So, a lot of people, rightfully so, have ideas of who I am as a person that don't reflect who I really am today. They just aren't willing to let me evolve or grow or be a different person than I was in the past. And that's fine.
Yeah.
That's a consequence of my past behavior.
For sure. But I will say, going into this interview, there was, because the articles about my family are not they're really not terrible. And maybe I say that because I'm desensitized. There was a few comments that I was like, that was kind of classless or distasteful, or, it hurt. But I also came into this interview and I was like kind of somewhat anxiety filled, pissed off, just because when things hurt, they hurt. But then sitting here with you, my whole tone really has changed when it comes to that, because a lot of me was holding you accountable for the things that you had said previously with, other people, friends of mine, people I know that were extremely hurtful. And there comes a time to where, how can you expect someone to grow if you continue to hold them accountable for their past mistakes? And that's kind of where I've gotten to in this conversation. It's like, just because you did something, that doesn't mean that's who you are.
The best way that I can explain that to people is addiction, right? If you're a drug addict, you might steal and lie repeatedly from your family and friends. Is that a horrible human being? No, he's an addict. And I really think I was an addict and my drug was attention. Silly as that might sound to some people.
But it is a thing.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Although now I sound like a hypocrite because on my podcast this week we were talking about the Vanderpump Rules scandal.
Oh my gosh.
And this one player in the drama, Raquel, was talking about how she's a love addict.
Yep.
And the need for approval. And I'm like, oh, that sounds like such BS. But then now I just said I was addicted to attention, and it sounds very similar to what she said.
But I get it. I get it. And, I pulled up my phone because I was obviously like on the plane doing my research, trying to just figure out, okay, how far because you're on this journey of wanting to be more positive and not wanting to be the downfall of someone.
Well, another interesting observation or comment is, and I don't know exactly how old you are. I would guess 27.
25.
Oh, shoot. Sorry.
Hey,
27.
I'm always,
25.
everyone always thinks I'm so much older.
It's the makeup.
Yes.
You're presenting 27, just 2 years off. A lot of younger people in their 20s and even younger think that a negative or a critical opinion is bullying. They think, I'm not saying you, but they think, well, like a lot of old people do as well. Like if you have nothing nice to say, just don't say anything at all. But you can express your opinion that may be critical in a way that's not bullying.
That is very true. 100%. I agree with that. And we do live in such a, obviously, cancel culture, a very, all the kids at school get participation awards. We don't get a first, second, third place anymore. It's all participation. And we live in we're wanting to satisfy everyone and wanting to please everyone. And so I do agree with what you're saying, that you can have constructive criticism. It can be your opinion.
But I also don't want to be hurting people. So
Yes.
I do want to apologize if you said that.
No, I think
you were hurt.
I will say the one thing that really, really got, and I guess I will start by asking, how much research have you done when it comes to my parents and their legal issues?
I mean, I wouldn't say I'm an expert, but I think I'm fairly acquainted.
Okay, tell me what the facts are that you think you know to be accurate.
All right. I mean, they were convicted. That's a fact.
Okay.
They refused to accept any kind of plea deal.
Okay.
And the government said they had enough evidence, or the jury, somehow there was enough evidence to send them to prison for a long time.
So just because the government says something,
And a jury got all of the evidence presented to them. I mean, they could have gotten it wrong.
Now, have you done enough research to know that you had an IRS agent lying on the stand, that there was a huge Fourth Amendment violation to where the government illegally seized what they called evidence, that there are all these things that create questions?
That's a good possibility. I mean, I never said things like they're horrible human beings.
No, you didn't. And that's where I don't want it to come across as attacking.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
I will also say this. I'm not like a conspiracy theorist. No, I'm not saying you are. Like you're alleging to have information of things that didn't go the way they should have. And okay, that very well may be true.
But if, let's say, in a year, it comes out, okay, appeal by the grace of God is granted, would you be able to say, okay, you know what? I was wrong.
Yeah, and so was everybody else.
But that's the thing, is there are a lot of people, obviously, people just want to believe, convicted. That's the biggest thing. And reading as their daughter, there was an article about the scriptures that my parents had posted on their social media that you had done. And your words were, that of course didn't go very far legally, as he and Julie were denied bail last Tuesday. And of course, their faith hasn't inspired them to take accountability for their actions, as they've spent the past few months blaming others for their predicament. And I think for me, if research was, and I get it, I do see how someone could say blaming others for their predicament. But if proper research was done, you see where a former business partner signed 2 different immunity deals with the government and admitted to doing all these things. So it would be very...
I mean, listen, I'm not going to say I'm an expert in the trial. It wasn't televised.
Yeah.
I wasn't watching it every day like I did the Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial. Yeah. So like, I feel like I'm at school and not doing well on a test.
No, but if you had all of those facts, would you be as harsh to say, well, they didn't admit guilt? They didn't...
I mean... in a way, it's bold or brave of them to not have, because they probably would have gotten a lot less time if they did. But yeah, I mean, I could have absolutely been wrong.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I definitely.
But that's what I love, is that we can have a conversation that's like, hey, these are the facts. These are the...
Well, since you really are going into your parents, let me interview you now.
Hey, you can ask me a question. Come on.
How invested were you in that whole process? Or did, like the conversations your parents were having with their lawyers, were you a part of all of that? Or did they want to keep you at arm's length?
No, we have always been an open book about what's going on in our family, the highs, the lows, the whole legal process. It started in 2012.
2012. Wow.
Exactly. So if the government had such a strong case, why did it take 10 years to issue an indictment? That's been my whole thing. And
what I'm curious about was, there must have been a point where, like your dad, who got a long time.
Yeah.
His lawyer said to him, listen, it's looking like you're going to lose.
No.
His lawyer never said that?
No.
Really?
No.
Because then I was going to think, like, okay, if I'm your dad and I know I'm innocent, but my lawyer's telling me I'm thinking I'm going to lose, and I could spend over 10 years in prison or 2 years in prison, well, fudge, even though I'm innocent, like, I know I'm going to lose. I don't want to spend 12 years in prison. That conversation never happened?
No. It never happened. And I think the biggest thing that he was facing from prosecutors, life in prison.
Really? Life in prison?
I will never forget sitting in that courtroom and hearing the prosecutors and the judge say that's what they were asking for. Was
crazy. For
life,
nonviolent crime, alleged crime.
Yes. And that
wild.
You will never forget those moments. And when offered a plea deal that's significantly less than life in prison, if you did it, you would say, you know what? I'm facing life in prison. I need to own up to it. I need to take this plea deal. So for me as their daughter, I have so much respect for not taking the easy way out. Still fighting it.
Well, now the other thing is, because this is where my brain goes, you're talking about all of these things that, people lied and the government shouldn't have done this. Like, I know firsthand how expensive the legal process is.
Yeah.
And appealing it, do your parents have enough money to go through like a years long appeal process? Like, it could cost millions of dollars.
It does. And luckily, we have been blessed with a successful show. We have all been blessed with such awesome careers. And for that, I'm grateful.
Would you be able to, are you having to help your parents with their appeals?
No.
Okay.
No. My parents they took care of everything they needed to take care of before they left.
Okay.
And for that, I have so much respect and so much, admiration for them for that. But I think I was blind to the system. Most people know that they should be drinking more water and fewer sweetened beverages, but plain water is simply just boring. And, well, that's where Hint comes into play. But I get lectured on this topic almost constantly by Aaron.
That's because you never drink enough water. And they have so many flavors that I feel like this is going to be the answer to you finally getting hydrated.
Well, yeah, because apparently doctors and nutritionists recommend a minimum of 24 ounces of water a day. And let's just say, before Hint came into my life, I have Not even gotten close. Hint has made it way easier. I mean, they have 15 different flavors, which is amazing. My personal favorite is the cherry hint. It's been a game changer, and I feel more hydrated, not gonna lie.
I feel like if you were a flavor of hint, you would be the black raspberry hint energy water with caffeine, because you're really complex. You have you have a very, very sweet demeanor, but you could get cold on somebody quick if they do you wrong. Like, that's the black part of the raspberry. The raspberry is the sweet part, and then all the hint energy water with caffeine, that whole thing is the complexity.
You know what? I love this, guys. I mean, hint is extremely pure, which is why I love it. Because I am pure.
Okay.
And it's fruit infused water, so it's not just your boring old water. And that's why hint is my go-to. There's more than 25 flavors. There's also 0 sugar, 0 diet sweeteners, and 0 calories. So hint is great for everyone in the family. Kids, teens, men, women, healthy people, people trying to get healthy, new moms, pregnant women, and women trying to get pregnant. And it's also available at retail and club stores across the U.S. Or you can have it delivered directly to your door when you order at hintwater.com. Hint water is an obsession that's actually good for you. So make sure that you go and shop Hint. You can shop at retail stores like Walmart, Target, Kroger, or have it delivered direct to your door from hintwater.com. New customers can get Hint for just $1 a bottle with free shipping when they order 3 cases. That's 36 bottles for $36 and free shipping. Just use the code UNLOCKED at checkout. Again, the code is UNLOCKED. I will be the first to say I was so tone deaf.
You were more of just like, oh,
it's not happening to me. So why should I really care about it? You know, like, I can feel bad for you, but, it's not happening to me. So I'm not going to do anything to maybe help your situation, you know, because we all are so selfish to a certain degree. And if it's not impacting us, then okay, let's go on about our lives. And now I am heavily involved in their appeals process and going forward. And 12 years for a non-violent crime is insane to me. When I just saw on the news that a man murdered a father in front of his children and he got 12 years. And it's
I don't agree with
that reform that needs to happen, and bigger conversations about our system. And in a way, I'm grateful that what happened to my parents, the injustices that have happened because it's opened our eyes to what we can do with our platform in order to be better and in order to bring awareness to something that not many people bring awareness to.
And have you visited them?
Yeah.
What do they share with you?
We laugh. All day long. It's
where's their headspace at? Is it like miserable? Are they making the best of it? No, they're not. Okay, good.
They're not miserable because they know when you have such a deep conviction about who you are, what you stand for, what you have and you have not done. And when you see people being treated the way that the Bureau of Prisons treats federal inmates, it's sickening. So when you're witnessing it firsthand and you have the platform that my parents have, you're going to do whatever you have to do in order to implement change.
Something else that I was curious about was, did they ask or were not given the option of serving not at the same time?
Yes, there was. They asked for staggered sentencing.
And that got rejected?
And yes, it was rejected. Their, transcripts can be pulled for what exactly the judge said. I am not going to repeat it, but it was astonishing to me that what was said was said. It was very disheartening, very much. It was a wow moment, and it was such a sad moment that our system really does not care. If it was not for me and my family and having such a tight-knit family, you would have 2 kids going into the foster care system. a system that is already burdened and doesn't have the resources to help these kids. And because of that, there is a good percentage of kids in the foster care system that end up in prison. So our recidivism rate is out the roof, and we don't take these things into consideration.
They should. I mean, they did for the Giudices in New Jersey.
And that's the thing. There is such a deeper issues surrounding our case that we will, in time, have answers to. But 12 years and 7 years is a extremely long time.
I agree.
And for my mother, who was not on a single bank loan, she had 7 counts of bank fraud. Her signature was not on a bank loan. Her name was not on a bank loan. Not a single banker had said they had ever met her. That's what happened at trial. So to see these things, and, fortunately, we have the resources to fight it. And what's so sad are the people that I've come in contact with that don't have those resources. So they just have to lay down and say, take me. Even if they...
So I have another question, just because now I'm on a roll and I have the question.
Hey.
I love hearing your passion, and obviously, I understand the relationship with your parents. Like, I would die for my mother. I mean, not really, because I have my kids, but I can't leave my kids alone. But if I was a single person, I would die for my mother. Let's say 12 months from now, your father has a change of heart. I'm not even saying this happened. I'm just curious.
Yeah.
If he says, I've lied to you and I really was guilty of these things, like, would you be able to have a relationship with your father in the future if that were the case?
I can't even answer that question, because my dad and we have such a special bond. All of my siblings know it. Everyone knows it. My dad is my best friend. And there's just nothing left unsaid between us. There has never been anything left unsaid between us. We have the heart-to-heart conversations. The most tough conversations that you can have, my dad and I have. And he looked at me one day and said, if I would have done this, I would have told you by now. I would have prepared you for what's coming down the road. Because as a father, it would be selfish of me to do that to you, to leave you blindsided. He was like, but Savannah, I haven't. He was like, I would tell you. And I know in my heart of hearts, like, no question about it. And if I thought there was a chance that they did it, I would come on here and say, you know what? Maybe there is, but that's just not there. I know without a doubt. And what's so sad is just this system that we're in.
Well, I also like that, you're even talking about this in depth, because not you, but some people might think strategically, business-wise, it's maybe a good idea to distance myself from my parents.
I was told that.
Yeah?
I was told that. We need to focus on your brand, Savannah, and, and I don't care. Money means nothing. When you're literally stripped of everything, and I'm 25 now without my parents, and that have been my whole life, that literally there has not been a sporting event, a school event, nothing. I never had to wonder, where's mom, where's dad? They were always there and present. So, it sucks and it's tough, but it's the cards that I've been dealt, and those are my parents. So I'm not just going to give up when the going gets tough. I'm digging my heels in harder, and I'm fighting for what I know is right. That's the biggest thing for me, is fighting for what is right. And them being in the Bureau of Prisons has given them the insight as to what, the Black community, for instance, has suffered from for so long. Because you're in there and you see how these men and women are treated, and it's heartbreaking. And to see how differently women are treated and the abuse that goes on within the system with women. And we just brush it under the rug. because there's a prison in Dublin, California, to where 140 women have come forward that were raped, molested, and drugged by the warden and the guards. But we don't hear about it. We hear about a celebrity and so-called tax evasion and bank fraud and who cheated on who. When in reality, there are such deeper issues and people that need saving that can't save themselves.
So one of the interesting, beautiful things about life is it keeps moving forward.
Yes.
So your parents are in this awful predicament now.
Yeah.
Potentially for a long time. Over the last 2 months, what has brought you joy?
I say the first time I visited my dad, I was so fearful. And sitting in that room, I've never felt the presence of Jesus more than I did in that room with all of these men. And that gave me the strength to move forward and realize that, like, he's going to be okay. He's really going to be okay. And to know the difference that he's making in people's lives, and wives of men that are in there that have messaged me saying, you have no idea what your dad has done for my husband.
Wow.
Now that is what has gotten me through the past 2 months, and the kids, and seeing their resilience, and to see that, you know what, like, we're still a family. We're going to be okay.
Your brother was on your podcast not
Yes,
that long
Grayson.
ago.
Yep.
He was struggling recently.
Yes. Yeah, Grayson. But you know what?
How's he doing now?
I think 16. Imagine you lost your father at 16. And in a way, I say that this experience is grieving the loss of parents that are still alive.
Yeah.
And that's the process that he's going through. And, you know, his story, where I have made, no, you're fine.
Oops. Take trash out.
Hey, we won't take you out. You're not trash anymore.
I'm the person. No. I have to send every Thursday, I take the trash out.
That's amazing. But, you know, Grayson and his story, I have said some things, you know, about him and his struggles with this that I do regret, because his story is his story to tell, and how he's struggling and how he's not struggling and his coping mechanisms. And he'll tell that in his time. He jokes because his podcast with me was like one of the highest rated ones. And he was like, you know what, Savannah, I'll come back on in a few months. I can't give it to him all at once. But their humor. And you know, the resilience of kids is absolutely amazing. And they're both in therapy. And we just try to do everything the way mom and dad did it. And I am not half the woman that my mother is, but I had such a great example.
Now, another question. I'm just a guy.
Hey, come on, taking it over.
The podcast has, I know, turned around. I actually, how can I phrase this? I feel dirty and complicit watching and participating in all of Mama June, Honey Boo Boo stuff. Mm-hmm. When you look at that and you know, the We Network puts that show on TV.
Yeah.
And currently you're not doing a show on TV, right?
Not at this moment.
Okay.
But there is a show that will come back.
Okay.
And I think that is where boundaries have to be set. But also our show, it was not reality. It wasn't. And so a show going forward would be reality. It would be how we are all dealing with things, how we're navigating it together as a family, how, you know, I'm 25, so dating, trying to, with now 10-year-old, 16-year-old, businesses, conflicts. So that will happen, but I'm going to be very mindful of the partnership that I create with a production company that is not about exploiting, and it's about truly following what is instead of the downfall.
And do you think in any way that your family's decision to be on television, if they hadn't done that, everything maybe wouldn't have happened?
100%, without a doubt. The prosecutors, the AUSA's office, the FBI, they said it best in their press conference. If this doesn't show you something, reality television stars, celebrities, they can't get away with it, neither can you. So it was to make an example, without a doubt. And there was, under old administration, there were prosecutors that refused to prosecute because there wasn't sufficient evidence. There was nothing to prosecute. And then when there was turnover, it was really, then they were like, okay, maybe there is something to prosecute, but I don't know. We're not going to look into it. When the show aired, that's when they truly started looking into it. So it became a much bigger thing, and it became about making an example. And it's sad. But like I said, this has allowed me insight into our system and the way things work. And now I am able to position myself and educate myself on things that I never knew anything about. And now I have such a large platform that I can now make a difference. And I can now have people who have been in the system come on my podcast and state their truth. And
you have episodes like that?
I am.
Oh,
yes.
cool.
Yes. So that will be coming up, and giving people a voice when they were told they couldn't have one.
And you mentioned you're dating.
Yes.
Any one person in
Yes.
particular?
Yes.
Oh, how long has that been
Yes.
going on for?
Pretty new, but
How'd you meet?
Instagram, like always.
I wish that was so easy for me.
Hey, we'll set you up.
I have only women messaging me on Instagram.
How is that?
That's my audience.
Okay, we'll set you up. We can
And
do
also,
this.
a lot of most gay men hate me. So that makes dating challenging because of my past.
But what do you think? Have you ever done just a sit down of like a conversation with yourself and a camera and said, I did all these things. I said all these things. I, for a lack of a better term, was a really shitty person.
Oh, yeah.
But that's not who I am today. And
It doesn't matter to people, though. Like, I even talked about this with my therapist, like the concept of, reparations.
Yeah.
Like, if I gave away every single dollar that I've earned to charity or to the people that I said bad things about, even if I did that, people would say, well, that's nice, but he's still a D-bag. That's nice, or what an idiot, or whatever it is. Like, I really feel like, so I've just stopped trying. I've truly stopped caring about the outside world.
Yeah.
Maybe you have too.
Well, that's the thing is whenever you apologize, whenever you make peace and you extend that, you've done all that you can do. Now,
and I've also reached out to people privately and publicly.
Yeah.
I don't want to say who, but like, and some people were very gracious and emailed back, and some people have not been gracious, and they don't have to. It's like they don't.
You don't get to decide how you hurt people and when people forgive you.
Yeah, or they don't have to forgive me. Yeah.
Well, you know what? I will say, sitting down, having a conversation with you, and understanding where you've come from, it's changed my viewpoint on you.
Oh.
And it's allowed me to have a conversation with you and not feel like I'm holding back, like attacking.
Well, I have to say I'm very inspired by you. I mean, like if you were to, do you live in Nashville now?
Yes.
If you were to run for city council or mayor, and I lived there, you'd have my vote.
Thank you. You know what?
I see that in your future. Yeah.
That is my goal.
Yeah?
My goal is, I wouldn't say that, but I do want to be a spokesperson for prison reform and for equality for everyone. And what I have seen and the stories I have heard are gut-wrenching. They're heartbreaking. And to live in the United States of America, we should not condone a system that abuses, that just really beats people when they're down. So I hope that I can be a person that helps the BOP become a new
Interesting
system.
though, because like you live in Tennessee, where
Yeah.
your opinion is probably the minority there.
Yeah, it's you know what? In the area that I live in, it's not. Now I will say the southern states, they're not for prison reform. They're not for this rehabilitation.
Even like in Los Angeles, I say because I don't live there anymore. I live in Vegas now, but there's a very progressive district attorney in Los Angeles, and a lot of people strongly dislike him because of all these changes that he's made, and it's going to be it'll be a very interesting, difficult journey to right the wrongs of the past and steer things in a better direction for more fairness for all.
100%. Because right now it's messy. It's nothing but arguing and you're wrong, instead of coming together and saying,
people are afraid to make this change
They
for
are.
that reason and that
they
other
are.
reason.
And and that's why right now, for me and my situation and my family, we had, there was a new director of the Bureau of Prisons that was just appointed and sworn in, and it's a female, and her name's Colette Peters, and that is where I hope to find my hope. And the things that she said in her swearing in, and how she no longer wants to call these people in prison federal inmates. She doesn't want to use the term inmates. She wants to help rehabilitate. And I hope that rehabilitation can take place soon, because I see these rehabilitation centers and they don't rehabilitate. They just throw you back out there and hope for the best. Instead, let's teach someone a trade. Let's teach them something while they're serving time to where they're ready to enter back into society. They're ready to make a difference and a positive change. And, for that, I'm hoping that
And
is positive
everybody
change.
can. Hopefully, maybe today I inspired one person to something positive.
And to forgive. That's what I've learned.
Ourselves.
Yes.
And to have more grace and compassion with ourselves.
Yeah, because
even you've
I will say,
taken on a lot.
yes, but I will say, watching you in this interview, I still, there were things that you said to where you still struggled to forgive yourself, because you said, I said those things. I'm not trying to make excuses. It was really crappy. I deserved it. But now you're at a place and time to where you deserve to let that go.
I deserve happiness.
Yeah.
And I have that. I deserve a man.
Yes, you do.
I deserve more money. And I deserve, I don't know, I deserve it.
Yeah.
I don't know what that is. That's
No,
such a-
to forgive yourself and to
Yeah.
truly move forward, because you are not the things that you have done. You are not sitting here with you. I truly feel just in your presence that is not who you are.
It's not. I just love entertaining people still. I love sharing. I love helping people. I'm old, so I feel like I learned a lot over the years. But then again, young people are going to do whatever they want to do, even if you share them your truths and what has worked for you.
Sometimes we all have to, we have to hit the rubber,
Yeah.
to truly feel it.
But, I just want to create great humans with my kids and have fun while I'm alive, because life happens real quick.
Life is short. Life
Yeah.
is short. Well, thank you so much for coming on my
Thank you.
podcast. Also, I want to thank Resorts World. This is just so awesome. The resort here in Vegas is amazing, and you guys allowing me to do this here means the world. So thank you.
Thank you for coming to Vegas to do this.
Of course. Thank you. You're awesome.
Thank you.